Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar about Census 2021, what is planned and how you will use it. This webinar has been organized by the UK Data Service to give you an overview about Census, what's going on Census and the upcoming Census. I'm Ana Morales, I'm a research associate at the UK Data Service, and today I'll be presenting this webinar with my colleague Richard Wiseman, also a research associate at the UK Data Service. This is the outline of what we are going to be covering today. We'll start with a brief overview about census in the UK, then we'll move on to the 2021 census output, and then we'll be speaking about the UK Data Service census user consultation. So what is census data? The first census was carried out at the beginning of the 1800s. At first, it was just essentially a count of the population on a given day in the country. But with time, it was evident that we need more than just a count of people. So it's been gradually incorporating more details about the population, such as demographic characteristics, social and economic, and health-related characteristics. The next census will be held in the 21st of March of 2021. It's going to be the same date across the whole of the UK. So, what is census? Census is the most complete source of information that we have about the population. It is unique because it covers everyone at the same time and asking the same core of questions across the country. So this is really good and important because it allows us to make comparisons. It also offers a very valuable snapshot of demographic and social life in the country. It's been collected almost uninterrupted across since the beginning of the 1800s, with the exception of 1941, which was the period of the World War II. The census is being collected in coordination with 3 different census agencies. We have the National Record of Scotland for Scotland, the Office of National Statistics for England and Wales, and also NISRA for Northern Ireland. Well, what I said, the main function of census is count of the population at usual residence with the purpose of obtaining key characteristics of the population. And as a result, it produces a wide variety of outputs that include data for small areas that we can just use to inform public spending and allocation of resources. It's also used as a basis for other statistical products and is informed by, is used by local and central government for the public policy and also by non-government organizations and for research purposes as well, which in turn also contribute to the public development of public policy too. So now I'm going to be moving to speak about the census output that we have, that the UK Data Service has. The UK Data Service provides a unique access to and support to census data from the 3 census agencies. This is the only place where you can get data from the 3 census agencies at the same place. We provide support and access to microdata products. Microdata is just anonymized samples of individual census records. The data have been anonymized to protect the confidentiality of the respondent. We also provide access to aggregate data, which is a count combination of characteristics at area level. We also provide flow data that can be used to count migrants and also travel to work distance. And we also provide access to boundary data, which is basically geographical information system, such as the one that used to produce maps at the local areas as well. Also, although not supported by the UK Data Service directly, we also provide support, not access, I mean. We also provide support to census longitudinal study, but they supported by Girls Hub. So we're moving now on to 2021 census. We are using this all said about something old, something new, and something borrowed. Well, what we have about that is something old. Census is going to still be available on paper, but census agencies are aiming to ask to send to each individual household a unique code with an internet access so you can complete the census online. They are aiming to collect about 60 to 75%, depending on the census agency, of the census online. What is new is what we said, the online completion by design, but we still have the paper. We also have some new questions like the sexual orientation, gender identity, and armed force community. Sexual orientation and gender identity are voluntary questions, and they are asked for 16 years and older only. Another new, something new about Census 2021 is the enhanced census outputs. That it means that there are some data that are going to be in the output that are not going to be based on question in the questionnaire. I'm going to be talking about this a bit later. But these are going to be collected through administrative data and survey data. And what we have forward was basically that previous question would mostly be retained. So this is a list of the most important topics that is covered in census. As you can see, there are some highlighted in green and blue. They can see sexual orientation and gender identity as new, the UK Armed Forces community as well. As I said before, some of these questions are voluntary and they are asked only for people aged over 16. And also it's important to emphasize that this question might vary in the wording across the different agencies, but they are more or less aiming for comparability and harmonization across the agencies. We have in blue, for instance, number of room and year you last worked. This is, for instance, the type of topic that will be collected through administrative data and survey data. So the number of room was a question that was previously in the census, but it's not longer be asked in 2021. But this information is going to be available in the output anyway, but through administrative data. Here you can see an example of the ONS household form for some of the new questions. You can see that it's clearly specified that the questions are voluntary, the 25 and 27 about sexual orientation. And then you also have an example of how it's going to be the question about the UK Armed Forces. There is a link in the slide as well that you can later you can have access to this presentation, so you can have a look and take more information about this. If you want to know more about Census 2021 and how the agencies are what they are doing in preparation to that, you can go to the UK Data Survey website about census. There is lots of information about census there, but also there is a direct link to each one of the census agencies, so you can explore each census agency with the reports and outputs. So now I'm going to pass you to Richard, who's going to be talking about outputs in Census 2021.
Thank you. So yes, the outputs will be very similar to 2011, although there will be some differences. So I'll briefly cover the different outputs on the next slide. There is a drive for the census agencies to harmonise for UK comparability. However, there is also a drive to satisfy individual user needs for each nation. So there can be differences in questions, wording of questions, as well as categories sometimes for questions, but harmonisation where possible is always in mind. So the census agencies are very committed to making the 2021 census more flexible, timely and accessible, and I'll touch on this briefly in later slides. And as noted, we'll have time for questions at the end, by the way, so please do type them in and we can take a look at the end. We've got some other colleagues online as well, so we'll have a look at them later. Concerning aggregate data, all three census agencies are committed to delivering a flexible dissemination tool where people can create the tables they require for the topics, categories and the geographies that they're interested in. So there'll be perhaps more of a focus on delivering data this way than the predefined tables of the past. There'll still be predefined tables, but it's more of a focus on the flexible dissemination tool. And ONS and NRS are planning to release the first outputs from March 2022 and NISRA from the summer of 2022. But exact timings of releases will be given closer to the time. So regarding microdata, the output will be very similar to 2011. There will be a public file as well as the safeguarded and secure files as in 2011. However, the sample design is being reviewed at the moment, and they're also considering a safeguarded household file as well, which would be really good as well. So again, the exact time of release will depend on statistical disclosure and UK harmonisation considerations. And for census geography, so for ONS, output areas and workplace zones will remain the smallest areas for aggregate data. As always, sometimes boundaries do need to change, but the aim is to keep output area changes to the minimum, so saying less than 5%. And obviously, it's great if they try not to change boundaries for comparability, but sometimes that's necessary. Grid square data, ONS are committed to producing this as well, and indeed Northern Ireland have a very long history in delivering grid square data as well, so they're also planning on delivering this. So for NISRA, for Northern Ireland, an assessment of an extensive redesign of small areas is taking place, and a decision is expected in the spring of 2020. So we should find out more about that soon. And finally, for NRS, output areas and data zones will continue to be the smallest areas for aggregate data. And like in the past, output areas in Scotland have a smaller threshold than the rest of the UK, and that will continue. And again, like England and Wales, changes in boundaries are expected to be minimum. Origin and destination data, also known as flow data, which covers things like commuting and migration. An assessment is to see if access can be less restrictive than it was in 2011 is taking place, as it is appreciated that some users found access restrictions to be a barrier in 2011. There is obviously a trade-off between the detail of data and the ability to make data more easily obtainable, either publicly or behind login. So looking at that. Reviews are taking place regarding statistical disclosure control and methodologies and past usage of 2011 census flow data, so lots of work going on there. And again, UK harmonisation, where possible, is being considered. So at the moment, the flow data is expected to be delivered by March 2023, I believe, for England and Wales, and the autumn of 2023 for Scotland, and Northern Ireland are releasing their timetable in early 2022, and so we'll find out more, I guess, the closer we get to those times. As we're part of the UK data service, and what we do is we distribute UK census data. We don't produce it, we distribute it, as well as lots of other data indeed. And more generally, we support user research. So we're unique as we host data from all 3 census agencies, so we're UK-wide. And we're looking to gain more information about what our users need and how we can help. So as such, we are conducting a 2021 Census User Needs Consultation. So as already mentioned, there is a survey, and I think we earlier put the URL in the question box on the right-hand side, I'm hoping. I'm not too sure if that's clickable or not, but it can be cut and pasted, and indeed we can send it out afterwards. So we're also interested in interviewing researchers to gain more understanding. So the survey, what that does is gives an opportunity to agree to leave your contact details so we can contact you more, or you don't have to, you can just fill in the survey as well. It's a very short survey, so please do fill that in. In addition, we'll be running a focus group to gain insight into the user needs of students too. So if you can help us in any way to promote any of this work, we'd be greatly appreciated.